what 17 years of competing has taught me, and I'm going to pass on to you. All right, guys and girls, coming off this last show prep, what I thought I would do is not only do a recap of the prep, but also go over the lessons learned and the things I'll be using moving forward, both personally and with clients. So to start, let's see how the finish went. So I won Masters 40 plus overall fairly easily. Then in the Open, it was a matter of apples and oranges, right? So the guy that beat me had a smaller waist, had a better back, my legs, delts, chest were way bigger. Conditioning was better, confirmed by the head judge. From the back, glutes, hamstrings, adductors blew him out of the water. But at the end of the day, his lats were definitely thicker. They had more hang to them. And that's why they said I lost, because my proportion was off, as opposed to he was small. I think he told me he weighed in at like 210 and we were similar height. I was 224.8 at weigh-in, but I was on stage at 232.4. So to give you an idea, like, it was just a matter of, did they want shape and more pleasing to look at, or they wanted, in this case, and it's funny that I'm even going to say this because I would never envision saying this about myself, like more of a monster physique with better condition. And they chose shape. And listen, it's a bodybuilding show and you have to eat that pill. And I know now the mission is simple: blow my back out. And you know, the head judge, she literally told me and found me backstage. She's like, Chris, like, if you hammer your back and make it at least match your other body parts, this isn't close. And that's what I have to happen. And that's how I close the door. And that's why I don't have sour grapes, right? Like in the past, I've been guilty, especially the last show in 23. Everyone at that show told me that I won. Like, it wasn't even close. When I look at the photos, like, it was clear. Part of me wants to show side by sides on this video, but that's too much shade. Like, it's not close. It's laughable. And I go back to finals and I'm like, listen, I think I'm just going to go in there and mop up the trophies and we're going to celebrate. We're going to smash 5 guys afterwards and ride off into the sunset, right? Wrong. Not how it worked out. So after that show, I behaved like an absolute child. I stormed off. I wouldn't talk to anybody. Didn't want to talk to my friends, my family. Just wanted to be alone and be angry. And what's one of the things that I promised myself going into this next prep, or this current one, that I wasn't going to do again. Even if it was clear and obvious, I wasn't going to have that behavior, because it wasn't in the cards for me in 23, and it wasn't in the cards for me to win an overall in 25. So that just means I take that effort, energy, and mindset, instead of being so negative, like, look, this was my best look. Just like in 23, that was my best look to date. So I have to be proud of that. I have to look back and reflect and say, what did I learn from this? How can I apply it moving forward? And then how can I level my physique up? And I'm at so much more peace with that. At the end of the day, I still won Masters, which that was the goal, because that's what is required for me to qualify for Masters Nationals in 26. So mission accomplished. I looked incredible. I got some great photos and I had a blast doing this prep. So all wins, right? So that's the outcome. The first thing and the first lesson I want to go over, and this is a very, very important one. I want you guys to hear me say this, and I'll get Chaz to flash a couple of the photos. Look how hard and dry I am. Every muscle is fully dug out, detailed, separated, feathered, right? That's on 7 liters of water. 7 liters, not ounces, 7 liters of water. The day before, I had 9 liters of water. And 0, I repeat, 0 diuretics. None. Not a half of a diazide, not of a quarter. I didn't suck on one and spit it out like I've told stories of having guys do in the past. Nothing. I didn't use Expel. I didn't use dandelion root. None of those weird over-the-counter diuretics. Nothing, 0. The only thing I did to manipulate my water to be pushed out of my body was continue to drink. And then I had 1 gram of vitamin C and 50 milligrams of vitamin B complex with every meal starting at 7 days out. That is the only thing I did to remotely make my body flush itself with water. So smash water and then take those vitamins to push water. And as you can see, it worked flawlessly. And I'd never had the heart or the confidence to try that. I'd done it with multiple clients. But every great coach that I worked with, Shelby, Matt, John, all wanted me to restrict water, and I did, and it all led to really good looks. So I thought that's what I had to do. And as you can see here, it's not. And the best part is I had no post-show rebound of water retention. Why? Because it was like a normal day of drinking for me. I had a little bit less water. Instead of 9 liters, I had 7. And honestly, if you factor in the water I drank on the ride home, and then once I got home with my final meal, I probably was at 9 liters anyways. So waking to bed was probably the exact same amount total, but in the photos that Chaz will post, that was 7 liters of water. So lesson number 1, get peeled, don't use diuretics, and then drink water to flush water. Again, I'm not saying everyone can do this, but if you think back, if you think about the last 3 people I've peaked, one being me, one being Dave, one being Chris, that is one thing we have never done, we didn't do with any of the 3 of us, was we did not pull any water. We continue to drink, continue to flush, and it just worked. So that's what lesson number 1 is. So take that to the bank, try it, don't be scared. Like, I know so many people and so many coaches are still this old school mindset where it's like, you start out DAC tone on 5 days out, and then you start expel on this day, and then 48 hours in advance you do half a diazide, and then the day of you take a half in the morning and half of a prejudge, and you're not drinking water, and you have sandpaper mouth, and you can drink some coffee, but it has to be 4 ounces, and you can swish water and spit it out, and guess what that is? It's a shock to the body. So lesson number 1, water, manage it properly, be in shape, and you don't need to fuck with it. All right, lesson number 2. This is the hardest I have trained start to finish because I manage the volume of my sessions properly. In the past, I've been very guilty of just ramming volume down my throat with training. If John wrote me a program, I'd add more. If I wrote me a program, I'd add more. Why? Because I love to train, and when I got in the gym, I got a pump, and I wanted to keep it going, and it's some of the best time I felt all day, and I didn't want that to end. So what did I end up doing? 20, 30, 40 sets. Stupid. All it did was run me down. So this prep, as the show got closer, I did my absolute best to keep the core exercises in that I love, feel, and progress off of in the off season, and keep my weights that I was using the same or higher, and then at least at minimum match the reps I was getting all off season. In a lot of the scenarios, if you go back and watch any of the videos that Chaz filmed, you'll hear me say, PR on this, PR on that, never hit reps on that, never use this much weight. And why is that? Because I manage volume properly as well as intensity. So again, I would do intensity techniques, but it wasn't to the point where it was overboard. It wasn't where I was exceeding my ability to recover. And that last statement there is something that John tried to impress upon me, but I clearly failed to miss because the inner athlete in me thought more is better. The more I do, the better I'll look. The more I do, the fuller I'll look. The more I do, the leaner and more dug out my muscle will be. And that just isn't the case. I had to find the perfect amount of volume and intensity to pair with the body parts that needed it the most. And that's what I did. So, for example, if I felt myself getting run down, I'd take a rest day. Weird. That's something I didn't do in the past. I'd just say, off. When I had that weird hamstring issue, and Chaz and I were supposed to film, in the past, I would have filmed legs and just gutted through it and prayed I didn't tear it. Instead, I know we got it on camera. I just pulled an audible. We trained another body part. Wasn't a big deal. I pushed legs 10 days later. Didn't bully my way through it. I literally took my body's feedback, listened to it, made a plan, applied it, and then the outcome was flawless, in my opinion. I could not have peaked better. I could not have looked better with my current amount of muscle than I did on September 13th. So, training, that was the lesson number 2. Lesson number 3. In the past, I'd been guilty of some what I'll call bodybuilding isms, right? You gotta eat whitefish. You got to, you have to, it's no choice. Guess what? This is the least amount of whitefish I ate in the entire prep. Now, did I eat cod? Did I eat shrimp? Yes, but it wasn't something that I was forcing down my throat to the point where it was overkill. I've eaten so much fish in the past, specifically with John, that Angela's like, it's coming out of your pores. Like, you smell like fish. That's a compliment you want your wife to say, right? The show that John and I won an overall at, which I had a good look for that, but it was, if I would have had that look versus the one I had on the 13th, I would have crushed that dude. But I was eating 30 ounces of fish per day over the course of 3 meals for the last 3 weeks. That is a ton of fish. And I know people say, oh, it thins your skin, it does this, it does that, it makes you leaner, it makes you harder. And yeah, listen, I don't know if any of that's true. For me, what fish does is it sits very light on my stomach and it digests really well. So that's the reason I like it. It just sits lighter than, say, chicken does, or turkey, or obviously red meat. It doesn't sit lighter. Nothing sits lighter to me than egg whites or whey isolate. But of those foods, fish just run through me really quickly. So if anything, it just makes me hungrier sooner. So again, I had fish out of 42 meals in a week. I probably had fish 5 times a week. So I would get enough fish that lasts me roughly 5 days, and then I wouldn't get it again until we went to the store on Sunday. And in the past, like, that was like a huge no-no for me. I would have been like, nope, going to the store midweek. I'm going to get restock on cod or shrimp, whatever looks the best or sounds the most appealing to me, and then cook it up, eat it twice a day, call it a day. And I told Andrew, I was like, I'm doing this whole like saving money thing intentionally. Chicken and turkey is drastically cheaper. Egg whites are drastically cheaper than cod. Because, listen, I'm not eating garbage cod. It's going to be wild cod. It's anywhere between $15 and $20 a pound. Where even if I got the most high-end chicken that wasn't on sale, the most that's going to be is $9 a pound. So I'm saving a significant amount of money. And so I was like, I'm just not going to stress about it. Like, let's just see. And I just kept getting leaner. So I was like, I'll just ride it out. And fast forward to the end, it doesn't matter. So I think what I'm going to do again next time is the same thing. Like, I'm going to get some fish for the week, but I'm not going to stress about it if I run out. And if I have enough the last 7 days, great. If not, I'm not going to stress about it. And again, I like fish. I like shrimp. In the hierarchy of meat, in terms of texture and taste, I probably prefer chicken 1, beef/steak 2, turkey 3, eggs 4, fish 5. That's just kind of how I see it. Next, I kept whey protein in way longer than I have in the past. Normally, for me, 8 to 10 weeks, sometimes even 12 weeks, like a hard stop for whey isolate for me. This time I kept it in until 14 days out. And then I would only have whey isolate on my high days post-lift in the form of a Ninja Creamy. And then I finally cut the Ninja Creamy out officially at 9 days. So that is something else that I did. Because listen, I was watching lots of old Ronnie videos. He's still smashing shakes and was the best Olympian in the world and the best bodybuilder ever. So I'm like, it's not that big of a deal, bro. Like, something I was looking forward to. I was enjoying every single day. It was easy, it was quick, efficient. And I was like, let's just keep it in until my body stops changing. If I have to drop it, I drop it. So that's what we did. The last thing nutritionally that I tried, and I had never done in the past, is I actually drastically reduced the amount of Splenda, artificial sweeteners, diet sodas, energy drinks that I was consuming. So normally over the course of a day in a contest prep, I'd have 2 to 3 cans of diet soda. So you figure 12 to 36 ounces of diet soda. I'd have an energy drink. I would have typically an unsweet tea, 2 to 3 coffees with 2 Splendas apiece. And then all my intra and pre-workouts would have that in there. And then obviously all the Bola Gain stuff is going to have that in there. I intentionally just simply pulled back on that. So I removed the energy drinks at 10 days out. I cut this diet sodas back down to 1 can per day. And then for my carb sources, I limited my Bola Gains to once per day until the carb up. And the carb up, I reintroduced those. So of those, I don't know if that made a significant difference. If anything, removing that energy drink brought cortisol levels down because I wasn't like stemmed and cracked out of my brain. And then reducing the coffees down to 1 did the same thing. So that is another lesson learned for me, is I think I just need to manage my stimulants better, because that paid off big time. So in essence, what happened was, instead of what I was after was reducing artificial sweeteners, I actually just reduced stimulants, and that did better. And that's going to tie into my last point that I'm going to make here, something that I did well and discovered is kind of wrap all this up and tie it together, is I was actually ready significantly early this time. I've never been ready this early outside of the prep I did with Matt. He had me ready at like 2.5 weeks out, and then we rode the condition. But the difference with that one was he pushed me like a damn racehorse to the end because he wanted to keep trying to get nastier. Where this one, I was ready 14-ish days out, and then I let that condition just marinate. And I intentionally began to pull back on cardio, add food. As I said, I reduced the stimulants, and I was able to pull my super supplements back. So what that did was it led me to be very fresh on stage. And I know that sounds crazy, right? You're like, oh, Chris, at 14 days, you're adding food and intentionally moving less. Yeah, that way my fatigue dropped, my inflammation dropped, and then my stress levels were down because I wasn't doing 45 to 50 minutes of cardio plus an afternoon walk. All that stuff was reduced and pared down. Then you pair that in with bringing in good, healthy, clean food. My body was thriving. It was like, oh, hell yeah, thank you for the reprieve. We're going to flush water like a machine. And each day that I'd show up at the gym, Chaz is like, leaner, harder, leaner, harder. What are you doing? Nothing. My life is easier. Like, I remember texting Chris Job one day and I was like, bro, like, I am feeding up into this show more than I ever have. And it's something that we experienced with him. Like, as the final 10 days or so, like, I was having to constantly give him high food days. And his body was getting leaner off of it. And I joked him that I was copying him. and it's true. Like, each day I'd wake up, I'm like, damn, leaner and harder. I guess I'm going to keep my food high. So kept food high again. I wake up, leaner, harder. With no need to drop food, keep it high. Off day. Man, I normally went like rock bottom, like with John, with Matt. They'd have me do like protein only and vegetables on off days. I was finding like if I did that, I'd wake up down 6 pounds. That's not good. What I have to do, I have to feed up. So instead I was like, let's just have a moderate food day on my off day and just try to maintain. Well, guess what? That sent my metabolism to fucking hyperdrive and I was down 2 to 3 pounds and leaner and harder. Then guess what? And the next day I just fed up again, filled back out, looked incredible. So reducing fatigue at the end was something I've never done. It's always, for me, typically push to the bitter end and just get as peeled as humanly possible. And what in turn would just run me into the ground to where I couldn't keep my eyes open because I was just having to do so much freaking work. And then when it got time to carb up, you'd have to push the food so damn high because I was burning through all the food. Like with Matt, for example, I was still doing double session hits at 22 minutes a piece up until like the Wednesday before the show. And you wonder why those carbs weren't sticking on top of a 2-hour workout. That's high volume. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why I was having to eat 850 grams of carbs and it looked like I was eating 20. So I have to remember, like, my body naturally wants to be skinny. Like, I want to be small. So I have to remove stress, add food, but the key factor is being in shape. So there you have it, guys. Simple show recap, lessons learned, and then lessons of hopefully it can be applied to you in your next prep. So hope you liked the video, guys. Like, share, subscribe. If you have anything that you learned from your prep, post it below in the comments. I'd love to hear it because, listen, this community is all about sharing information and gathering knowledge. And that's one of the things that I feel like I've always done very well is I've accumulated a ton of knowledge. I'm not scared to experiment. And then I apply it to myself, apply it to my clients. And then, again, if something comes out and works well, I share it with you. So, again, like, share, subscribe. We are this close to 60,000 subscribers. So hopefully that changes by the end of the day. And we're moving again closer to 100. So again, thanks for everybody for watching. Until next time, Chris TV.